Hey guys, welcome to Dev Insight, where we've got a bunch of devs to give us...
That's us.
Maybe would have guessed it. Insight. Yesterday, got to do the Protector of the Dead update notes, the 1010, bringing in a new god, a lot of changes that are coming in, whether it's item buffs, nerfs, things like that, and a whole lot going on. And Aggro, I was thinking about this yesterday because I assumed with a new god, you would probably be somewhere nearby because I think you were like mostly hands-on with this one.
Yep.
And that kind of wanted me to ask, because like at this point it's been a little while, but like, how's it been on the other side of things? We don't like talk about this. Is also just me trying to catch up with Aggro.
Actually, you guys can take a nap or whatever. Goran and I are going to catch up. I know that's what Clumzy wants. No, it's Maman was a lot of fun. You know, I think that there's something that like you kind of have to get back into the swing of god development every time is how it's been for me, where like at the beginning it's like, oh god, you know, what do I do to set up a temp effects? Like, how do I start this? What team needs what? But when you hit the stride, and there's always some point, at least it's been for me, I don't know if you two feel the same way, but there's like you're play testing, you're like, yeah, this is good, but I've still got some things I want to mess with. And then at some point, the god just turns the corner and you're like, okay.
It happens overnight.
It really does.
It literally is instant. Like, that is a done god. And you're like,
it really does. You're like, wow. It turns the corner and all of a sudden, like, oh, now I know exactly where I want to be taking, you know, the gameplay flow, or like, because, you know, we plan out these things so far ahead of time. What Mamon's kit pitch was probably in what? March,
yeah,
or something like that.
The irregular one as well.
Yeah, and then it's like it'll drop for a little bit as the team works on other things. Then you pick back up later on, and you know, I know what I was planning in March. I was like, yeah, this is how it'll play. And then sometimes I get to September, and I'm like, why did I have it doing this again?
I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, mention like while you're thinking of that, little Calvin's just
paternity leave. Yeah, that'll end up happening.
So how did that affect everything? Because like knowing that it's so soon, I guess afterward, right? And the god was still like being worked on. Did that like cause some really interesting turmoil that was kind of unseen to everybody?
Everything worked out.
Hey, you know what? The god's coming out, so it obviously worked out.
Yeah.
True.
No, that's the thing though, is that it was a very interesting twist on things, because it's kind of like weird to hand off gods at different points in the development, especially when like you have kind of the brainchild of one person going to a different person. Like, it will obviously switch up a little bit, but like god creation is such a group effort that we all kind of already understand like what the intention
is.
Yeah. So it really, at that point, I'm not going to say doesn't matter, because it does matter who does it. Everyone has different opinions on the design team, and that's the whole point. But I think that we all have that common goal in mind, to the point where we can execute successfully. You know, if someone needs to go on parental leave or whatever it might be, we're just ready.
You're just ready. Also, forgot to mention, but chat, like, ask questions, because otherwise it just becomes like a Q&A and I have to put in a lot more effort. Instead, we
don't
could
make
just,
him work.
Yeah, we could read what you're asking and get information that you care about, as opposed to wherever like my ADHD decides to guide things. But don't be a doofus. That's the other thing. I'm gonna preface with that. Don't be a doofus.
No doofy.
That doesn't. There's no such thing
why not?
as a dumb question.
Well,
but understand also, don't be a doofus. Those two can go hand in hand. But yeah, your chats, I got you open, they got you open.
Yeah,
we do.
And so that's going to be the
we're looking
big goal.
at you. Watch out.
And until then, though, we're stuck with me. Oh no. So bringing in a magical assassin, and like, I mean, you had said it, like the original kit pitch, and the fact that these are planned pretty far ahead, like all the gods are. How did you decide magical assassin? Like, we got to go back to that. We got to do that next.
That was a tough decision.
That was, it was something that things like that, we go, yeah, you know, maybe we could do like a magical assassin at some point. But it wasn't like Maman was, oh, we want a magical assassin, let's do Maman Brigitte. You know, it was, we want to do Maman Brigitte. What would she be? She is kind of like magical, and what her power set would look like, you know, what her kit's gonna do. Maybe we could make her a magical assassin. But I remember for the, you know, we've talked about it before. It's like 3 kit pitch, where after brainstorming, the designer will come in with 3 separate kits that are completely separate, get some feedback, and then create a 1 kit based off that. I think what I was told was I shouldn't have all 3 being magical or physical. I think I had 1 physical, 2 magical kits, if I remember correctly. But we were not set in stone on it until we decided on the overall direction of the kit, and we kind of let that decide if she was going to be physical or magical.
Yeah. Also, it's like kind of what the abilities feel like as well, right? Because you might have like, stabbing obviously is a very physical motion.
Yep.
But then you have like fire breathing, you have magical snake, you have possession, like all of that kind of fits into that magical realm.
Yeah.
So it's also like what the character is doing that can influence that decision too.
Yeah.
And like what you're stabbing with can make it more magical or less magical.
Right, just put some ghost stuff on it and it's magical. You know what I mean?
Suddenly, it's like an
That's
enchanted
always a
weapon.
consideration. It's like, exactly. It's like we might not have given Maman Brigitte like extra glows or anything like that if we wanted to be more physical. We might have like leaned more towards like physical looking visual effects and colorations.
Yeah.
For sure, that definitely does it. And for what it's worth, Clumzy, close your earmuffs for me. I definitely put more effort into the magical kit. I wanted her to be magical for sure.
I think we were all fine with that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Wow, Aggro wanting a god to be magical. Who would have guessed? Oh man.
They're cool.
It's just, it's always just to make sure we have enough options. Like there's a world where the physical kit just outshone by, whether it's coincidence or not.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted or needed at the time. So we wanted to just make sure that we're ready for it.
Yeah, it does
Right.
impact other god releases too, because you also
Yep.
have to consider like what the lineup looks like. Like
Exactly.
you do want to try to like mix up the magicals and the physicals between the releases, and like making sure we're not doing too many like mages in a row or hunters in a row or whatever it might be. Just we want to make sure it's mixed up so that everyone has something at some point in the year.
You don't just lean back and go, man, guys, this is the 4th Guardian in a row. We really need to like figure something out.
Right.
Another thing that we noticed as well a while back is like, unless we really hit the mark and we're careful about it, it's there's always a chance that if you do kind of the subclassing that neither group are too happy. It's like, oh, we just got another mage. It's like, oh, but this assassin's not a physical assassin, so therefore assassin players aren't happy. It's sometimes we can get hurt by that, but we want I think this time we really hit the mark, and I don't think anyone is complaining that she doesn't feel like an assassin.
Yeah, she definitely feels like a jungler.
Yep.
I'm excited. Like just to see, I guess on Tuesday, like where she ends up going. Like, what
Oh, I'm
path
very
she
curious.
Why are you going up on the,
What do you mean?
Yeah.
that's where you think she's OP? Is that what you're telling me, Gore?
No, that's
Or
just
she's-
a snake.
Because this doesn't look as good on camera. This
okay. I'm out of practice with the camera stuff. That's on
I have to
me.
dodge my laptop so I don't smack something around.
Yeah.
I believe I just heard that we have a question
Yeah.
from chat that we can field for you. So are there any plans on bringing older gods like Neith back to life to go along with the amazing new gods you release?
I mean,
I
so
guess that's how you define that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, bringing older
There's a lot
gods,
of ways to interpret that.
back to life. They clearly avoided the question of or like phrasing of like rework or anything like that. And for the most part, we've talked about reworks before, where you really. They're really risky. It's like you're probably making both camps of people upset of when you're doing reworks, and we lean more towards doing like these spicy god changes.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Those are things. I mean, even for Neith, we did make her backflip faster and stuff like that. We did give her the attack speed steal and stuff like that to try and. We've actually probably done quite a few spicy changes to Neith down the line. But that's not to say we can't do more. And sometimes just like it's also like a mixed bag, because even with the spicy gods, well, I think they were generally quite positively received. You do one step too far, or you hit the wrong god where there's like maybe Neith where there's too many people, and people's like, why can't gods be simple, right? It's like why do you have to change every god every time? Why do gods need to be spicy? And we're 10 years plus down the line, and we're like, well, it's sometimes change for changes can be positive if we're going towards the right goal.
Yep.
It's also interesting. I think we actually talked about this the last time we were doing a Dev Insight, where it's like the philosophy of god design 10 years ago, when the game, like when you have the first 20 gods, to what you would probably like see with like a new god, it literally like mentally it's different people who are working on the game, and it's kind of shaped by the trajectory that Smite's gone on for a decade.
The meme where it's like if you played a Victorian child, like some crazy band, like they would perish, like just like hearing like what's the 100 Gex, that awful band that Ron Jobber forces me to listen to all the time. It is the worst
There
band
were
of all
so
time.
many
I swear
places
to
you
God.
could have gone with that, and that was a very specific reference.
Well, no, if you ever listen to 100 Gex, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
If a Victorian child listened to 100 Gex, their head would implode. If you showed like season 1 Smite players Maman Brigitte, they'd be like, what is this? You know what I mean? Like, why is this doing so many things?
That's why I want time travel.
But it's like, yeah, exactly.
Exclusively for season 1
Play
Smite
100 Gex.
players.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah.
I wasn't sure if
Nothing
it was the
else.
100 Gex thing or the
Maybe a little bit of both.
But yeah, I mean, it's just the context of the game changes so much, and there's a lot to be said about bloat, power creep, all these terms that people are really scared of. But I think it needs to be interesting, and the more things that are already there, the less that is interesting that we've done before.
Nice.
So you kind of have to come at it from a different angle.
It's also important to note that players have just gotten better.
Much better.
They're real good at Smite, aren't they? It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. You show them like Roz Kit and you're like, he has a line that does damage. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all I got to do. A line that does damage.
I could
They'll
maybe,
hit it.
if I played supports the way I play now, but 10 years ago, I might have been able to do something like cool.
You'd be in the SPL.
But now I'm like an average player, if that. Sometimes I tried to play a mage the other day, and I've hurt myself mentally playing nothing but supports for years.
Just let me know which one and I'll buff it for you.
No, it was me. It wasn't even the god. The god was fine. It was me.
Yeah, I can't help you.
I was the problem. We'll figure that out. That's a me thing. I do want to ask this question, though. It was from Take a Bow. It was a little bit ago. And it was just because this one seems a little bit like more out of the regular of what we would see, which is that the sounds on Mammon are great. So, like, how do you decide what a thing, like, obviously the sound team is getting in on that pretty heavily, but how do you know when it's like, that's right?
Yeah. I think, so we have Kellen, who's our audio lead, and he's a complete beast. Like, just just so good at his job. And basically what'll happen is I'll be in a meeting with him, or if someone else is going to be doing it, him and someone else from the audio team, and we'll go, okay, this is what this ability does. Here's the important part. Or when we'll go through the whole kit, and he'll go, okay, we need something, a little bit more tinny or high pitched for this type of ability. This feels a little bit more bassy, a little bit lower. But like for Mammon, I stressed a lot that we need the passive sound to be big. Like, that needs to be a hard-hitting, sharp sound so that players can pay attention to it. And also, we know things through playtesting that need a little bit more help in audio than others. Like, for example, her fire damage over time, there was a lot of feedback throughout her playtesting phase because audio comes in pretty late in comparison to everything else. It's just one of the last things that gets in. There was a lot of like, oh, I don't know how much, like the fire damage, it's doing a lot, but I can't tell I'm taking the damage. And so that tells me that whenever it's time for audio to come in, I let them know, hey, we need to make sure that these fire sound effects are pretty big because we need some audio help in order to convey this to the players. So a lot of it, I mean, is just Kellen and whoever's working on the god going total beast mode and knowing what they need because they've done this so many times.
They're crazy. Like,
they're so good.
I will talk to Kellen and be like, hey, Kellen, I need this to sound scary. And he's like, I got you. We're good.
I know exactly what scary sounds like.
Great.
Don't worry.
Yeah, no, we're good. Or like, I want this to sound like creepy. And he's like, ooh, so like a little bit of screams. And I'm like, go off. You got this. I trust you. Like for Karen, that was a very big thing. Is I was like, I want this to feel like a wave of souls. And he was like, no further instruction needed.
And he nailed it too. Yeah, that's a good point because Mammon's first round of sounds were a little bit too spooky. And she's like ghost. She's got like ghostly
coming out
energy
like right
and all that kind of
before
stuff.
October. That's like
I know, but she is not like this spooky, terrifying character. More like Karen. She's like fun and having a good time, and so that was like one of the first some feedback from the first round was it can be more fun. Like the sound can be more fun, and that's like a sentence that I said.
More fun sound like?
But they know, they're about it.
That's actually, if I remember correctly, because we played with Kellen like 3 weeks, maybe a month ago, did an AMA on Reddit.
right.
So you should go check that out on r/smite. There was an AMA because that was around the time that there was like a poll up for like the genre of the next music pack, something like that.
Gotcha.
It was just really fun to see what was going on, and it's in a way because I was like, oh, it sounds like when composers, like I never get it, like when a composer's just like, I'm just like wrote a song, and I'm like, okay, that's like,
that doesn't make any sense.
I've played instruments for 22 years. I don't understand how you do that though.
Right.
And like it's hey, I wanted to sound more fun, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can make more fun. It's like, what does more fun sound like? But they do it.
But they do it,
and they nail it every single time.
Yep.
And I believe we have another question queued up. And I think this one is about items, which is, with another Magical Assassin coming out, could we be seeing more items soon that end up kind of catering more to, I guess, that style of play? like a magical equivalent of Shadow Drinker. I didn't see that part.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I
forget what
think
Shadow Drinker does every time, so hopefully that means something more to you.
it's underbought.
Yeah.
It's good. I swear.
I swear that item is actually low-key really good, like especially on characters like Mercury or Arachne that like can get in there, do a little punch, getting out. You know, I think it's really cool.
I've seen some good plays with Thanatos because if they actually get
Oh,
on,
yeah.
they execute, and they just disappear. And it's
and
like,
it has flat pen too,
Yep.
so it's like
Yep.
a good early pickup.
And movement
you don't
speed.
need Golden Blade.
Damn, Shadow Drinker's sick. Anyways,
This is perfect prep for tomorrow when we're like doing SPL.
Yeah,
if
there
it
you
gets
go.
picked up.
Now
I'm
you're there.
So there.
How you doing?
Yeah, I think, items, every item that gets added is a cost to all players because it's another thing they have to learn. So item slots are very high value, and I think the more narrow an item can be, usually the less likely it is to be worth its slot. It needs to do something really special, really unique, and really catered towards that archetype in order to be worth earning a slot. And even with another magical assassin, I consider Hebo a magical assassin in the way that he plays. He plays a lot in mid lane, more so than something like Ao Kuang, but
Even like Morrigan.
yeah, the Morrigan is another good one. Yeah, I'd say there's like 3.5 magical assassins now in the game, and it's Ao Kuang, Hebo, the Morrigan is half, and now Maman. That's I don't think that they're missing a whole lot of. I really wish I had this type of effect, but
yeah.
I think that there's some amount of brainstorming we could do in that area. But like I said, the barrier to entry to earning an item effect, if you are a niche character class, and that's different than leaving something in like Hastened Ring, which is really niche and who wants to buy it, but it's established and you don't have to learn it.
It's for fun.
Yeah, and that's pretty important, I think.
Because even like an effect like Shadow Drinker, like you were saying, would it benefit Hebo as equally as it would benefit Maman as equally as benefit,
Right.
Freya or Ao Kuang or something like that? Because what makes a magical assassin? It's the play style, right? It's like you could do different things. We need to make sure that we create an item that hits all of them equally.
Yeah, the damage application between Hebo and Maman is probably the most different it could possibly be.
It's true. All at once versus building up.
And I think, and it wasn't specifically for this reason, but like we had, and this was years ago, it feels recent because my brain doesn't process time the right way, but where we went through and like specifically were like, does this item need to be here? And there was like a massive patch where it was like, how can we
that was
shift all of this around?
Your
10-1. Yeah, we
That was
removed a whole
definitely
bunch of
Wait,
items.
that was way more recent. I was like, this is going to
Yeah,
be like
nice. That
season
was the
8,
other
6
day.
or something.
We were there,
That
yeah.
was definitely an effort to make sure that we cut things that we found to be irrelevant. And even then we brought some effects back and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that was really successful. I think that if we can continue to make the items that you're buying feel different without just straight adding on to the already mountainous pile of knowledge you need to play Smite at a high level, then that's a huge win.
Yeah, the items as a whole is probably the biggest barrier to entry to a MOBA.
Yep, agreed.
And it's one that I think is, it's just difficult sometimes. It's
hard. It is.
Especially like you said. I think we had another one queued up, so we'll jump to that while I continue reading, which is which of the newly added recipes would be the most delicious? Also, how do you think that they've been received by the player base? So one of those is an actual design question.
There's only
Okay,
one
can we answer
correct
the
answer.
fun
I know. I would bet
correct
every
answer.
cent I'd ever own that Clumzy's going to say bow.
Yeah, there's no chance it's not Bao. Bao was literally added. Like it had to have gone in. Like
Yeah.
that was a mandate from me basically.
I know. When we were talking about what they're like foods that they're bringing to a party is like the flavor, and Clumzy's like, oh my god, there has to be bao.
Yeah,
We're
bao
doing
or
food. It
dumplings
has to be
had
bao.
happen. It's like or Bao / dumplings party food. It's like yes, they're at my potlucks every time. Like,
I forget one every single time, but like, so bao, you can whatever filling, but like bao's almost always good.
Yeah.
That one I think is
Are
blanket.
gooseberries a real thing?
gooseberries are
They
real
are.
things.
I
they
looked them
good?
up last time.
We talked about this last time. They're a little bit sour / bitter, so they're probably not going to be.
Okay.
The
You
most
remembered way better. I had to
Yeah.
Google it.
Yeah.
They're like
that doesn't sound
yeah,
right.
see,
kind
look,
of
that's what they
snack
look like.
food, not like actual.
Yeah. I mean, you could do stuff with them, or you can use them as like a
Put 'em in
garnish or whatever,
stuff.
maybe. Or
We should make some gooseberry bao.
or gooseberry pie or something like that. You have to
Yeah,
put some
that
other
would-
stuff.
If
in
you
there.
make gooseberry bao, I would really like to try
That's our
because
bit.
I don't. That might be
make
the
it.
one filling that maybe doesn't make that work so well.
There's a
think
lot
I'm
of feelings that
capable of
also
ruining
wouldn't
Bao.
work.
Yeah,
right?
no,
But,
that
like,
wouldn't be
you know.
good. No, I think it's definitely Bao. Maybe if I'm really in the mood for like a turkey leg, like durable
You're
drumstick.
like at the
Yeah,
Ren
yeah,
I was gonna say
Fair.
that. I'm like,
Yeah.
drumstick has like
What
its
kind of
time and
seasonings
its
on it?
place.
That's I think what matters.
Yeah,
Oh.
heavy,
What's
heavy.
in
Oh,
stew?
absolutely.
Heavy. What
kind of punch is it?
I love stew. Exactly. Punch. It's like if it's a Friday and you
Yep.
up that content a
Friday
bit more. I'll take that with some Bao. You know.
Yeah, okay. Now we're cooking. Literally.
SMITE recipe mukbang stream. Yeah. Oh, I said yeah. Definitely invite me. Let's make this
When are
happen.
we doing our
yes.
cooking stream, man? I want to do a cooking.
I have
That would be
pitched
fun.
several times, especially after these came out, that we should make
Why
you
didn't I
come
do
in and cook
meatballs?
things.
It's like literally the only thing I cook in real life.
Well, they'd be meaty meatballs. We talked
Meaty
about this.
meatballs. That's why I think we said yeah. Okay.
And then you were like,
We'll
you know
see
what?
later. And then I said,
Bountiful
never mind.
Bounty.
Yeah, that's exactly what I got my one. You guys, it's fine. It's fine. But as for the I think the reception has been quite positive.
Yeah.
Sure, the
Agreed.
balance of them is something that we're still playing around with. And I think there's a further question later on of just like, party punch. But that's exactly what we did, right? We introduced them and we started buffing the ones that we thought were underperforming. And that's exactly what we did this last patch. I think overall they've been a pretty good addition to SMITE.
It has definitely made casting when hungry like a little more difficult because like
Oh,
my
yeah.
brain, I see the bow and I have to convince myself, and there are people in the YouTube section I can guarantee that don't believe this, but I do edit myself sometimes. And so I see the bow and I'm hungry and I have to very purposefully say, don't talk
Yep.
about food right now. Like you'll get lunch later. Just worry about it in the future.
But to bring the counterpoints as well when necessary is that recipes come with a cost. One, again, there are different types of items that you need to buy. That's always something that we think about. It wasn't a simple decision to do something like this, but we thought the pros outweighed the cons. We obviously are well aware that now you've got multiple things that you need to juggle at the beginning of the game. That's one of the reasons why we increase the game time at the beginning to give some players some time to get used to them. But even then, they're not that simple. I mean, we saw SPL players forget to buy them, whether that's going to be a meme or not, whether we see that throughout the rest of the year. I'm not going to forget that because I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's something that there's a cost to all of them, and we think while it get easier to learn over time, it's something we're going to evaluate consistently of whether they're going to continue to be value adds. Because just because they are at the beginning doesn't mean they're going to stay that way forever, right? Like just like we culled items, there's a world where I'm not saying we're going to get rid of recipes right now, but we always want to consider all of our systems, right? Even like shards and stuff like that, glyphs, whatever they may be, new things that we add, we always need to consider whether they continue to be value adds throughout time.
Yeah.
I'm always excited for more recipes just because I'm kind of curious how you can keep up the alliteration at this point.
Oh, that's easy.
Like, what's
That's
the next
fine.
meat? Well, I guess we've
Well,
got Mighty
same with
Meatballs
cars.
queued
Yeah.
up, right? So
Mighty meatball, so much better than whatever it is you said.
Come on, meaty meatballs is
Oh, yeah,
so
wait.
good.
That's just
Come on.
repeating the same word twice.
Well, how about
I'm
massive?
happy that I
meatballs,
auto-corrected.
Minimalistic meatballs.
Nothing wrong with that.
Man, now I do want to see a SMITE. I want to see you make bao. What would you cook if we had? And now this is
Out
we're
of-
in
Dibs on punch. Dibs on
Dibs
punch.
on punch.
Dibs on punch. Yeah.
So you just like go out, buy some high C, and dump it in a bowl.
Yep. And
I guess
some other stores. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Gotta be a dessert. I make
Dessert?
desserts. That's all
You're
I
gonna
can
make a
do.
dessert?
Yeah, you can do a gooseberry pie or
Gooseberry
something like
pie.
that.
And then everyone eats it, and they're like,
Gooseberry
"Oh, it's
cake.
really sour, actually."
Well, you'd be killing it.
I feel like the gold aspect of gooseberry, like when like you take something, you put like gold leaves on it. And
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh yeah,
It's
well now
fancy.
this is like $100.
I can
Yeah.
just make
Like that
it
feels like you take a
golden
gooseberry and it's like just regular. You dip it in
berries
gold.
in a goose shape.
There you go. Make us put a spin on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm fine with that.
technically, it's golden goose and berry. It's just
Just
Yeah,
not in
see?
that order.
I like
You've heard it here. Make sure that you follow Lermy on her stream. She's going to be doing a pie
wow.
making
Yep.
stream.
Yep. Go
I
ahead
don't have
and
that kind of setup.
follow and subscribe.
Follow and subscribe. We have
Yeah,
another
I'll
one
take
queued up, which is going to skew us away from food, and instead plans to bring in a casual duel game mode in the near future for players that are a little hesitant to jump right into ranked duel. I don't know about y'all. I'll let you, but like I feel like duel inherently is
That's
casual
effectively what I
duel
was gonna
is an
say.
oxymoron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but basically that's what I was going to say. And like I think this has been like a philosophy that people have started to like understand a little bit more about. Ranked is only ranked because people take it a bit more seriously. Like if you just start jumping into ranked, whether it's duel or not, like you're starting with players around your level, especially depending on when we do the resets or whatever it may be. And like they're going to be more casual because you're not going to be good at it. And if you just never get good, then you're going to be versing people who are never good for the most part. And you can just take it as casually as you want. And I say the same thing for a ranked conquest or maybe like if you're scared of them, competitive games, team-based games, I get it. SMITE's not the only one. Mute all your teammates, go in, learn the game as best you can. If you don't want to do that, if you want to play with friends and go just casuals, then do casual, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing about ranked is that even in casual game modes, you have like a matchmaking rating. Like that still exists.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's literally the same exact thing, because the only thing that changes in ranked is the like severity of like the differences between the teams and like how they're actually ranked. Like it's literally the same exact thing.
Yep.
And because it's only you, it doesn't change at all. So.
Yeah, I think a big draw of casual versus ranked is having a more laid back team environment on, like, you know, it isn't as serious in a casual game as in ranked. Now here's a spoiler, it actually isn't that serious in ranked.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually never serious a single time unless you're
I think it depends.
playing
Like
in the
for me,
pro league.
it's like there's very clearly peaks and troughs, and that's when I ended up like stopping playing as much. Like you get the peak where like people are saying, you know, it's people learning, people taking it seriously, and then you get the like, you know, we're all so good and doing fine that we're just gonna stop trying, and it's like,
the bronze to GM meme where it's like the bell curve in the middle, where it's like maybe Hades is really good. Hades fucking son of a and then Hades is actually really good at the other end.
That's basically what it is. But yeah, if you have no teammates like you do in duel, then the difference between ranked and casual duel is basically nothing.
And realistically, I feel like every casual duel just means, okay, cool, you're queuing into Kali every single game, have fun.
Also that,
and that seems like super not good.
I can absolutely see a lot of like players who only play ranked duel because it's the only one available that would just play casuals from time to time just so that they don't have to have that like that burden of restriction, right? It's like, you know what? I just feel like stomping the noobs that don't know who to ban, you know?
Yep, exactly.
Always really fun.
And then, of course, adding other game modes and stuff like that.
The only other aspect that I can see that is like a reasonable understanding is like without bans, right? Because like bans do, like if I go in and I want to play, I don't know, I want to play, who's OP in duel? Hebo. Yeah. And Hebo gets banned every single game. I'm like, well, I don't want to play Hebo now. I can't play Hebo. So like I get that aspect of it. But if that's the case, you can always just make a custom game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just make a custom duel game.
Just have someone join.
Yeah.
This one wasn't a question, and I scrolled up for it because I kept reading it earlier, and like, it's just an interesting, I think, like balance discussion, which is Agni and Kleena's ult specifically. Like when you hit 5, you don't immediately like have access to the meteor.
We had a discussion about that.
And so like
it's actually just like, I think those are all possible to do. It takes some time for players to will have to get used to them, because that is a buff. That is like a non-insignificant buff. And then it also comes down to, there's actually a lot of gods like that who, whether it's like dying, returning to base, it's honestly a larger consistency pass that we probably have to do for several gods. Like we talked about this for like Rama and his passive and stuff like that before. There's many gods with those kind of fuel-based systems. That we could possibly touch. So I don't think it's impossible to do. It's almost like, well, if we do them, they're definitive buffs, and players definitely need to like, do those characters need buffs? Do we want to do multiple at the same time or just one? It's justifying all of those variables together. It's like, okay, well, they're not really problems right now for those specific reasons.
Right.
This one's fun because you can, I guess to your comfort level, but Kitten of Doom had asked, Scotty and Nox buffs win?
Didn't we just
and so like y'all can just like,
didn't we just do that?
Open the floodgates.
Okay, can I?
I was like, sorry, I was away on like on a holiday, and I'm pretty sure Lermy's just like, I just got like some ice cream from KD, and the next day I saw that there was like a Scotty buff. So
really, ice cream is all it takes, Lermy?
That's all it takes for me. So maybe I heard
you gotta get taken to Andy's. You know, like you're having a nice time.
Andy's is built different for sure. Can I peel back the curtain a little bit here? When we have a new patch with skins, of course, we like play test a bunch of games with those skins. In order to make sure that there aren't issues, bugs, whatever. And we're also playtesting Mamam because she's the new god coming out and want to do all that. I had to play against Nox like 10 games in a row because there was a Nox skin.
I'm so sorry. Oh,
we do a lot of Nox skins, okay? Because there are a lot of great ideas. They're popular among the community. Right, they do well. All that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that that's bad. In fact, I think that we should keep doing more of that, and people should keep buying Nox skins. But also maybe like some other gods too, so that I don't have to play against Nox quite as much.
Play as the Nox.
No, this patch was great because it was Nox and Ganesh.
I know. I literally played against Nox Ganesh like 3 games in a row, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, man. Like, this is so brutal. So there you go.
If you think
Maman is crushing you, just pick Nox and Ganesh. She does not do well into those 2 characters. Let me tell you that right now.
Imagine if that was real, where like people, if they like did a poll, whatever it was, could just like pay for our ice cream and we'd give them a buff.
I mean, it's not the worst idea.
Am I cooking or what? Is this just
you want to hit Andy's after this? Like, I got a couple ideas. Ice cream on me.
I'm just saying the Smite balanced Patreon like might not be the worst. Might not be the worst thing.
Just give us some ice cream.
You're 11. Go to
make
Patreon.
us happy. We'll make you happy.
Okay. Here's the thing, though. Is that okay? I'm choosing my words here carefully.
Smart.
The ban rate is kind of that way in a sense, because the more that you ban characters, the more we're like, oh, these people really don't like playing against them. So we look at that.
What does that have to do with getting me ice cream?
Clumzy's like, wow, you're just
ice cream at all. We don't care about the balance. We only care about the ice cream.
But that is our bribe.
That's a
You
mistake.
guys ban the characters and we go, yes, okay, we understand now what you don't like and what you want us to nerf.
It was bound to happen.
That's the part. There's no bribery. Okay, there's no money. There's no ice cream.
I remember I made that.
It's just bans.
I remember I made that meme for SWC. Just like, I'll be at the bar, buy me a drink, and I'll listen to your complaints. That's just gonna happen with ice cream this time. Like, I will actually do it. Last time I didn't do it, but
What the heck?
Clumzy was like, I'll be at the bar. I'm never going to.
yeah, I'm not, if you want to get me just like a little bit of ice cream or something like that, I'll listen to your complaints for 10-15 minutes. Sure.
100%.
Completely tangential. I went to Andy's last night because I was like,
Thanks for inviting us.
well, so here's how Katie was napping for 2 hours. I had eaten at like 4:30, so I was like, I don't want to have like a dinner.
Yeah.
And she woke up and I was like, you want to just like go get Andy's? And she's like, get the car, let's go. And, like, there was
not a
not much of
question.
a chance to like have anything beyond that
Yeah,
come
yeah.
to fruition.
Wait, can we get sponsored by anything?
I hope so.
You know what?
They're the best.
Andy's, I'll tell you right now.
Recipe. How do you
Andy's recipe. Oh my god, it's so good. That'd be so
It's a
funny.
dessert. If it's
Has
my
BizDev
God.
explored recipe sponsorships?
Yeah.
Like this
Oh
is
my
this
God.
is so easy for us. Yeah, absolutely.
Advanced GG recipe?
Yeah, an advanced GG recipe.
Advanced GG party punch. That's like it's just waiting to happen.
If you guys want a dev
already up there with
insight,
the
the
Baron's
insight is
brew.
we're hungry and we want ice
I
cream.
am so hungry. That's true. Yep. 100%.
I'm going to ask this one just because it's a fun concept, but Domination was Azanic's favorite game mode, which that's not what the question is about, but it's just more of like game mechanics like that and kind of coming in the beacon. Like, was Domination even on the mind when the beacon was being talked about, or was it just like capture point?
I guess it came up
More
because we were like,
vaguely.
we kind of did that before, but it was kind of like, let's use those rules as our like bouncing off point.
Right. It's just like what are the different almost like technical and visual and auditory like feedback mechanisms we know we have in another mode that exists with this mechanic, and what can we utilize and to remind us that we need to implement these in this one. But I wouldn't say that we went, oh, like here's another game mode that had an interesting mechanic, let's put that into Conquest. It was very much the reverse. It's like we want to do a Capture the Hill thing. Oh, we've done that before. What mistakes have we learned? What timing mechanisms?
Yeah.
What rule sets? So we're not just like
Yeah,
rebuilding
what have
the
we
wheel, right?
learned? Let's see.
I'll say though, as someone who like did Paladins, like, you know, main objective is capture point, right? It made like casting those fights feel very familiar for me. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
you're back in
5v5 on a capture point. I've been here, baby. Let's go.
Yep.
We have a question about spicy changes that was up, and I had forgotten about for a second. Since starting with Spicy Changes mini reworks, are there any that surprised you with how they turned out when put in the hands of
Yeah,
players?
I've got two probably.
Yeah, I've got a few.
Yeah.
I think the first one was Arachne, and I was surprised at how it didn't even take that long in terms of there's usually a big lag on what our stats say and then what pro players start to say, and then what the majority of players start to say, and where Reddit starts to agree with that. Like there is a significant amount of delay in between each of those steps, basically. And for what it's worth, I think that delay is getting shorter and shorter. But I was surprised at how when people first read these changes, at how low they were on the Arachne change, because a lot of those were done while I was on paternity leave. I don't know if you guys remember that. And you and I had a meeting when I came back. It was my first meeting back from paternity leave. And Clumzy's like, okay, so here's what we did while you were gone. And I was like,
God.
what is this? Like, what is going on?
I knew you'd be excited about them.
I was.
And you were.
I was super stoked.
Like, there was a little bit of fear maybe, but you
for
were on
sure.
board.
There were a lot of them that I was like, oh, I don't know. But
we got
overall,
balance
like,
with the problems.
it was for sure. I was very excited. And Arachne was one I was like, she's probably going to be crazy off this, right? And I was surprised at how low people were on her initially, but they've come around.
Yeah.
You know, they've come around on her for sure. And I've got a couple more, but I feel
We can go through one each first.
Yeah.
I think the first one for me was just like I think the Chernobog buffs were spicy. I don't think they were the spiciest, but his stats were through the roof. I think he ended up being the sharpest curve out of all of the spicy gods. I mean, we were considering whether we even wanted to nerf him yet, because like sure the SPL players kind of noticed it. I don't think any actual like perception on social media was like that high on Chernobog, but no, like he needed them. His stats were awful. It would be irresponsible to not nerf him after.
Awfully amazing.
Yeah.
After like, you know, that sharp ass curve. So we were like, yeah, I was surprised to see that his buffs were the most impactful statistically.
And yet they
out
were
all
like
of
one
them.
of the least talked about. They're like,
Exactly.
he's good.
Yeah,
but
Apollo
he's not,
got all
Apollo,
that. Yeah, I know.
That was so, oh man.
Which
That was tough.
unfortunate for me, who I love watching Apollo. This is a weird thing to pull up, but I opened Facebook and it had like your memories. And 10 years ago, I made a post about Zapman diving phoenixes
oh yeah,
Hey.
right.
on
yeah.
Apollo, specifically because his quote about it was, "As long as it looks good on the big screen."
Yep.
And I was like, and that's why people like watching you play.
It's true.
But then Apollo, during our kickoff, nobody touches him. Nobody even looks at him.
Yeah.
Chernobog's the number one banned god the entire weekend.
Bonus balance and the timing of that. Like we nerfed him a bit preemptively to make sure, because everyone in PTS said he was the most broken change that we've done by far. Like it wasn't even
And
close.
there was also like split push concerns
Yep,
and all
yep.
this other stuff that
So-
that barely had more like ranked implications than it did actual pro implications. But the fact that, you know, ranked isn't like an actual thing that people see like broadcasted on like the SMITE game channel versus this is the pro league, this is what the best players in the world are doing. Like they see more Chernobog than they're seeing the Apollo.
Yeah.
Just on average. So it's tough that way.
Yeah.
Your god.
Osiris.
yeah, that was
Osiris.
Yeah,
Osiris.
Osiris up there.
Is that everyone's like?
I thought he
my
was
second
gonna
one.
be busted.
Yeah,
I thought
thought
this
so,
change was
too.
gonna be crazy and like break him. Honestly, I was like a little worried. I was like, "Is 50% damage too much on single strike? Like, is that crazy?" And
Yeah, like
he didn't
never
really
went hit
change
minions
that much.
before. And
I think he got worse. He got worse. Yeah, he got worse. For
he got
more people
worse
playing
because
him.
more exactly. When
It is
gods
so
are
crazy.
below like a 50% win rate and more people play him, that just makes them like get worse and worse.
Oh, yeah. Plummet.
Yeah, he actually
same thing
got
for popular
legitimately
gods,
worse.
the other
I was also surprised at how much better statistically Raijin got. I thought that was like a fun flavor change that wouldn't actually end up mattering that much. And clearly, I was wrong.
Drummers want to drum.
Well, I mean, it was like compounded, right? Because he is a cooldown god with
Yep.
an additional cooldown effect.
Yep.
With bow,
Bow.
all
Yeah.
happening at the same
Yeah,
time.
bow, yeah,
Oh,
definitely
and
contributes.
the totems as well with the extra 10% CDR. If you get that really early, that can impact a lot of things as well. So I mean, it was just a lot of things coming together at once for little old Raijin, you know.
Yep.
So definitely deserves.
Sometimes that's how it be.
Everything lining up for him. I saved this comment for now because it's a little closer to, but Isaiah did say that he'd legit drive 30 minutes to meet y'all at
Come on down, bro.
So like,
He's saying that. It's like I've got to do Andy's.
but now all of a sudden, I waited until like 30 minutes would get it to after the show
Yeah.
just
Oh,
to make
perfect.
sure that it would, if he did follow through, you know.
I wish I could today.
Can't you?
No, I don't think I can. Well, actually, we can do our sync at Andy's.
I was gonna
right?
say we have a
We've
meeting,
got a meeting
coming
after
up
this.
We
Yeah.
could just do it at Andy.
That seems like a great idea
That's-
to me.
Man, that's better than every meeting I have. All mine are at
have the
home.
cool-
It's just Hindu man going oi at you all the time.
More recently,
Oi,
what it
bruv.
is I'll get Discord DMs from him
Oh
that
my
will like
God.
clarify, like, hey, like, you know, where is everything on this? And I'll be like, oh, this is like what we talked about. This is where it is, and this is like what I told people. And it'll go cool, and then he'll like say it out loud, and I'll be like, well, like you could have just like asked. Like, this could have been in the meeting. I don't know why we were typing about it, but
I'll tell you right now. One of the things I miss most about casting is just messing with Hindu man.
yeah.
I miss
You're
it
allowed
greatly.
to still do that here.
Yeah.
I guess you
That's
can't
true.
as often.
It's harder.
As you like to point out, like you wouldn't be doing it on cast though. It'd be like behind
Well,
the scenes.
right, because he's savage, and that's his thing. Like he's a
Yeah,
savage
he's a
guy.
savage
Like he'd
guy.
be savage to me.
Just go watch that one. He did one cast like recently with Inbound.
Yeah, what a treat that was.
That was very funny.
It was,
That was a good time.
Yeah.
it was kind of a little mean. Not like I felt that.
Well, he's the savage. That's his thing.
that's his
That's how
thing.
people know him.
You're right.
He's a savage.
He's a
Yeah,
savage.
yeah, yeah.
okay. Just making sure.
You seem like you're over that.
Well, that's his thing. It's like his
his thing.
brand,
Yeah.
if you will.
My favorite recently is Mifflin pointing out all the things that Aggro has said that get incorrectly attributed to him.
Oh yeah, really?
What is really funny is
Happens a lot.
he's not happy about it
No.
because every single time he's like, they're just telling me Aggro's better without even realizing it. It's like they're saying
love
like,
it.
whatever
I see,
Aggro says is more memorable than anything I've ever said.
So funny.
Yeah. Well, that's the first time I've heard him say something right. That quote
yeah.
that you just had. That's good.
Oh my god, that's great.
Well, hold on, like because
we can just leave it. We
because
can
those
leave it.
same people are saying mean things about me too.
Oh,
So,
no, well, they're stupid about
yeah,
that,
See,
for
yeah,
sure.
there we go. That made me feel more
Yep.
validated. I'm gonna take this question and warp it to my own agenda.
Perfect.
Are there any mechanics that you would have liked to give Maman but like couldn't, whether it was because of like just doesn't make sense with her kit, things like that? And then I'm gonna follow that up with where's the blind?
Yeah, we didn't get the blind in, unfortunately. We've hit our blind quota with eShell. We have to wait. We have to wait 10 more seasons. Before we can add another one.
You know how much I'm gonna have to grind for 10 more seasons
I know.
to get there.
Sorry, bro, but you still got it. But it's part of the bit to still suggest it for every pitch, so that's important.
I want to do.
Yeah, we knew that we wanted to do something with possession. Basically, when we talk about what gods we're going to add, for Maui, for example, we know what class they're going to be. We talked a little bit about assassin versus mage assassin for Maman, which is a little bit unique. But like for Maui, it was, he's going to be a guardian, and we want his gameplay to center around the hook, like using his fish hook, being strong and athletic, like that. We kind of have those baselines. And for Maman, one of the things was we want to see, it isn't guaranteed because it's really hard to do in a fair way, but we want her to, we want to see what we can do on a possession line. And, you know, as much as, Hindu Man is, I've heard Hindu Man pitch the jockey from Left 4 Dead 2.
Oh my gosh.
Pitch in like
In a lot of meetings, actually.
15 plus God meetings over the years. He really wants it. And I think a lot of our players, it sounds...
It's got the old Arachne vibe.
Yeah, exactly. But giving you control of them.
Which is also extremely technically difficult.
It's very technically difficult. It's
also
very frustrating.
To use your example, if you've played Left 4 Dead 2 and been forced to move by the jockey, you're not happy about it. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, you hate it. It's one of those things that like there are frustrating moments when playing Smite, and that's just what comes with the territory of a MOBA. They have to. The more frustrating ability is to get hit by or affected by, the harder it has to be to hit, or the less impactful it has to be, the longer cooldown. You know, there are knobs that we can turn in order to adjust that. There isn't a knob for getting jockeyed. Like we felt like it was a non-starter to lose control of your character when being possessed, no matter what. So we wanted to do something with possession, but really did not want to make a character lose control of their own god.
I think another thing that we talked about was Maman's Brew came up quite a lot.
Oh yeah,
Many
a lot.
suggestions from
In
Maman's
fact,
Brew.
not a lot of players mentioned that like afterwards.
I was surprised.
Really
I was worried that
surprised.
people would be really disappointed because I've probably pitched like 5 different versions and none of them were good enough or right.
You have to, like, it just fights with, you know, with Baron's Brew. It's like, well, people are probably going to want to play both at the same time, and now do get both, and your consumable slots are locked.
And if we ever add another voodoo god, do people just expect that they have a brew? You know, one is unique, 2 is a trend. You know, if they're in the same thing. So we talked about that a lot. Ultimately decided it wasn't. We weren't happy with any of the potential designs, and so we just totally went away from it. we just totally ditched it,
Dodged it.
I just saw a good question of, is Maman's ult based off of Warlock's Nova Bomb, while Ishell's ult is based off of Chaos Reach?
We know what's funny is I'm a hunter main in Destiny.
I'm a Warlock main.
I know. My secondary character is a Warlock.
I mean, that's part of the reason why I did like Ishell's ult. Bitch. I will say this could work.
You know, we put example gifs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was
Ishell's ultimate example gif was Chaos Reach, for sure. But I mean, every game has a channel pulse line like Ishell.
I mean, we've got it in our game.
I can think
we already have it in
least
Anubis.
5 off my head.
Every game.
3 of those are in Smite.
I feel like I'm allowed to legally say it here. The working name for Maman Ultimate the entire time was Spirit Bomb. Like the entire time, that's just what we referred to it as, and that's the vibe that I was really trying to go to. Every game and every anime forever has had the gather ball of energy above your head, slam it down. You know, that Warlock definitely has it. Every game has it. It's a thing for a reason because it's really freaking
fun.
Cool. Yeah, it's cool and fun.
Yeah, I'll say, like, even on my end, there have been things that like aren't actual abilities, because I don't play like MMOs or like any like really multiplayer.
You play nothing
games.
but Smite, pretty much.
I play JRPGs. I play a lot of like adventure-y, action-y games that are really story-based.
What's the better Pokemon that you play?
Shin Megami Tensei.
Right, that's the one.
I promise you, I swear to God, if you try those games, I'm going on a
I tried it for an hour, then I stopped playing it.
Okay, listen. It is very culturally rich because it's another game that has all of the gods in it, which I think is super cool.
That sounds very cool.
I really love the idea of like exploring their
This is my fault, by the way. I'm taking responsibility.
Anyway,
Sorry.
To go back to where I was, for Ishtar's Dash, I had this game that I had played for a while as a kid growing up. It's called Okami. And so in that game, you're a wolf. And so one of the moves that you do is you like bounce off of the wall and you like flip back. And it's kind of like an anti-wall jump. And I was like, I want that idea, but like as a backflip and super cool. So I was like, how do I take this thing that has felt really cool in this different game and like make it unique and original and its own like
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that all the times. Like, you know, where do we get our ideas and inspirations, whether it's from each other, whether it's from books, games, medias, life experience, whatever it may be. And yeah, I remember the very first one for me, like in a similar way, was Chernobog. I know he was like a shadow god. We wanted to do something there. And I just finished playing. I always forget what the name is called. Maybe it's A Link to the Past, but the Link one where you
where you run the wall?
Oh, yeah, where you become a wall shadow and you move across it. Or a wall
Between
painting.
Worlds. Link
Yeah,
Between
exactly.
Worlds.
And I was like, can we do that? And we couldn't do the movement along walls component. That broke everything. Turns out later on we could do the movement inside walls thing, but we reserved that later on.
But only for Pon Pon. You know, that was the Pon Pon privilege.
Like, this is cool. Clumzy doesn't get this. No, but yeah. So I was like, well, I think that's really cool. But that was like, you know, the inspiration for that one. I mean, I think finding out where our inspirations are for each game and each character and each idea is always just like
getting inspiration from other media too is really fun. Like there are genuinely really good ideas that don't necessarily fit, like, you know, if you copy paste it into SMITE, like it wouldn't work, right?
Right.
You have to work on it and adjust it to be what's appropriate for the SMITE setting.
Or even, sorry, go ahead.
Incon's whole chat this morning while I was watching him play Maman was talking about Nobara from Jujutsu Kaisen.
Oh, sure.
Like
dude,
a big part
so
of
cool.
Oh, yeah.
Maman.
Gotcha.
And I will tell you, I was thinking about Maman's kit. I was rewatching the final fight of season 1, which is one of my favorite anime fights ever. And she does this, the snap and the nail becomes energy. And I was like, wait, I could totally do that. And that it was definitely a big inspiration for sure.
I know it was just hearing you. This comes with a spicy change that my brain decided to spit out. You know, Lermy, like, oh, I played this one when I was a kid, and I was like, well, I don't know any way that I could like try to influence you guys for like Doom and like the DOS games like Duke Nukem. Like I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't know if I could, like, if I was designing
do some rocket jumping stuff, probably.
Yeah, probably. But then immediately, for some reason, my brain, it went to two places. One was this Rugrats board game I played on Nintendo 64. Nothing to do with that. The other one was Tron for some reason. And it made me realize how difficult, the answer is probably very, because it changes everything. But like, Naja ring toss. How wild would it be if that could ricochet off walls once? Like if you bounce it off a wall to hit somebody.
Like that's your first shot. Would be
it couldn't do it off of.
It's not like I hit you, it goes off the wall and hits you, but like if I hit the wall and hit you.
Yeah. I mean, that's just who you ricochet, and then once you hit a god, then it does what Naja already does.
Nice.
Yeah, we can get that in.
Like if you
probably
just like
10, 12, right? We can.
I have been pitching to find a place to do Ricochet as a dash. I think it could be really hard.
Ricochet as a
dash.
You did have that for Ishtar, didn't you?
I did have that for Ishtar as Ricochet as a dash.
So like if you were like you turn into a sonic ball and just bounce around like in pinball.
With Tsukiyomi in a way, right?
That was basically Tsukiyomi.
If you add pinball sound effects, I'll sign off. I was like, I don't know how much funding it takes to get it going.
Jarring. Like you have to have some kind of camera treatment for that, or else you're just like bouncing all around. Like.
Oh, sorry. I had a funny story about like inspiration and that kind of stuff, because not only, you know, we want to take inspiration from things that we like, we also be very careful that we aren't just like using some other ability in a different game, whatever. I remember for eShell, it was the night before my like kit pitch was due, and I was having a lot of trouble figuring out, I couldn't get my mind around what I wanted her main clear ability to be. And I went to sleep and I woke up in the middle of the night, literally wrote it down on a notepad that I keep next to my bed now because this has happened to me so often. I was like, oh my God, I've got it. It's like an AMC paint targeter, and you paint it and then a rainbow beam goes along it. Went to bed feeling like I was king genius. Like I was like, I've done it. I solved it. This is it. This is going to feel so good. I woke up the next morning, I read it, and I was like, that's just Victor E from League. It's the exact same ability. It's the same thing.
To me too.
And I was like, this sucks. I can't, like, I didn't feel like I could differentiate it enough. It didn't feel quite right. And I thought I had it. And then I was like,
See, because I don't play League, right? I basically play Smite and I play single player games. So I came to you with an idea and you're like, that's just a League ability, and I was like, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it depends. I mean,
but like obviously, you know, they've got 100+ characters, we've got 100+ characters.
I mean, and
There's
it
no
goes
way
in
to
reverse as well. Like we see some of these other characters, or even whether it's Dota, whatever, and they go like, oh, we just did that recently, or whatever. 100%. I think the best one still, which is not an ability, I think this is just almost miraculous, is when we did our TTK changes. They literally did almost the exact same thing with like health protection and stuff, like the same month.
Yeah,
we did
same
ours.
month.
And like,
it was crazy.
I think there's like some Smite fans, because definitely not all of them, were just trying to find the conspiracy behind this. It's like,
how did this happen?
Did
How
they
did this work?
somehow steal this from League? Like, the day before
we saw it and we were like, oh yeah, we should do that.
Yeah, we definitely didn't like spend weeks and months in advance like planning this. No, we saw them do it. We're like, we could just copy and paste it.
I remember AJ like posting in our Slack, you being like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah,
it's like they had their patch notes were 2 weeks earlier than ours, and it just so happens that we're doing like the same thing, and he's like, great, everyone's gonna say we just copied League. You know, that's just how it goes.
It's also really interesting to think about because, you know, like most of these companies have like at least a basis in the US, and like I know when you mentioned that, I was like, you know, we've had designers that have gone and worked on other
course.
and like immediately, I don't play a lot of Valorant, but I was like, I know at least 2 Paladins designers that are working on Valorant like now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wonder what kind of things they've carried with them that like
Sure, I mean that's
probably
always
persisted because it was something that they really liked.
Whether it's between MOBA to MOBA or other games to other games, or like the movie industry to the gaming industry, there's always inspiration.
Movie industry to movie industry half the time.
Yep.
That's like a bit though, like in the movie industry is like, this is from the other thing. This is the bit.
Well, we have, and this one's been sitting there for a little while, but a fun one that was queued up, and I guarantee it was this one because it was exactly the one that I had read. Smite voice lines that get stuck in your head on repeat.
Mine's super easy. It's I don't think I always use Swagny and Swagny announcer pack. It's just too funny to not use. So I'm not going to repeat any of them, but anything.
Good business.
I'm not going to tell you what the line is, but
literally anything in any of those.
There are so many. I think of Chiron's "You're Learning" all the time.
Okay.
I think of that one, and then anytime I'm out of any resource in any game, whether it's Smite, like I'm playing like Final Fantasy or something like that, and I'm out of my secondary resource, I think of Hebrews. I'm out of like all of my mana. Like, I think of that line all the time.
Yeah. I say that same line. I'm like out of my mana, bro.
I'm like out of all of my mana. I love it.
I have too many, and it changes day to day. It just depends on the mood.
Yep.
That's
or very specific laughs.
What is it? There's no better feeling than a freshly forged blade in one's hand.
God.
Raijin Classic for sure.
For some reason, Katie's been like VGS quizzing me lately as well.
Oh yeah,
but like, and I don't even think it's for like, do you know it? It's just like, she'll sit down at her computer, she'll be like, "What's I've returned?" I'm like, VVVT, and she's like, cool. No one's gonna get this, but I'm gonna type, and I'm like, okay.
That's really
what's
funny.
going on here? I'm just getting blasted.
Sorry to totally derail us. Low Speen in chat. I apologize if that's not how you pronounce your name. Is the first so I wrote all the Magic voice packs, and I was super stoked about this little nerdy thing where all the Magic skins all say I'm tapped out instead of I'm out of mana, because that's like a term in Magic, is when you're tapped out, you don't have any mana left. And no one has mentioned it the entire time, and that's the first person.
Has anybody else that plays Magic like in the company even mentioned it?
No, literally.
Also,
I cleared it with AJ.
I was going to say, that's one of the lines that we almost never change.
Yeah, I cleared it with AJ and made sure we cleared it with Wizards that we could use that terminology. And I was like super stoked when they were like, yeah, we can do that. And then no one said anything about it. And I was like, man, I thought someone would notice by now. But I appreciate you, Low Speen.
That's like my favorite part of like writing the esports ones too, is like being able to like input like either like current lingo, where it's like I put poggers in the voice pack or something so like that.
Well, that's why I don't understand any of them.
It's like what was it? I'm turning on the jets or whatever it is.
Yep.
Like just putting in random like funny lines that have been
I liked writing the one
off.
with Splice, because me and Aurora just kept putting in ice cream and
Ice
chunky
cream.
stuff. Yeah, it's just like, this has nothing to do with Jormungandr. I don't care. We want ice cream.
Yep.
I've gone full circle. I want ice cream.
That's one of the
And we're back.
one of the lines that now that I think about it, like that comes up in my life there, because a lot of Smite voice lines, as you imagine, I listen to them a lot, so like they come up every so often where I'm just like, I'm memeing something, but I'm a race car from the NRG Chronos for some reason.
Oh yeah, I'm a race car.
I'm a race car.
That's always really
You deserve a beer.
Yep, that's a good one.
Get off of them. Pretty much anything, like if you can imagine F dot doing it
Yep.
as a bit, I do it unironically now. Yeah.
Dude, iconic.
Get off of them.
Yeah.
Those were so good, man.
so good.
Tom was so funny with those. Not good at the impressions.
No, yeah, they were bad impressions, but it was real funny.
Yeah.
There was a bit that Kabam and Vinny had for a while that they were just like fireball, and so I was like, what character can I do this? And I forget what character I
You
did.
do a fireball
Just
voice.
fireball.
That's really funny.
I mean, I think there's like a LARPing bit as well for like lightning bolt. Like, I think I put that somewhere.
yeah, it's one of the Merlin.
Oh, that's sorry, there you go.
Yeah, he literally goes lightning bolt.
It's probably the old man Merlin or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Like lightning bolt. Yeah.
My favorite is just due to like age demographic of designers.
I don't know what you're trying to say with this.
Well, I bet you could get some really obscure niche, like, and this is like vintage high res, but like 2002 memes in there.
Oh, yeah,
where it's like, when we were first getting on the internet, this was like super popular,
Yep.
and for some reason, now that's in there
shit,
and immortalized forever.
Absolutely.
Merlin base 1 says lightning bolt. He doesn't even have a lightning move. It's in our picks and bans sound.
His passive is lightning.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
there
made
you go.
sure to get in more than just the 3 elements. For Merlin.
Yeah, and you had to put the
Massive.
coolest element as the smallest one, which is
Yeah.
weird, but it's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it's because he's using it all the time.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
present.
It's the coolest.
I
Lightning, that is.
Satman's not going to watch this, so I can spoil this.
Sure.
I wrote a script that I think you would really appreciate. The idea is like a game show where I ask you things that are
Love it.
like, your name is Clumzy, so I'd ask you about clumsy things that have happened to people or something like that, right? And so like I was like, I'm gonna write one for Zapman. It's all lightning trivia.
Oh, yes.
It's just like, let's see if he knows it, and that's
funny.
I just did that literally yesterday, hoping that it will take off. So we'll see where that goes. So there's
zapped by
you
lightning
go.
this week, you know?
yeah, it's just like Zapman. So like things that zap, lightning. Like, and I was like, I could do electricity and just like message JMac. He used to be an electrician, but like that's too easy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about lightning and science. We had a serious one queued up.
Unlucky.
Which
What, from Kingdom 2?
From KD.
yeah, what is your favorite part of the process when designing a new god?
That's a good question. Lermy, why don't you kick us off?
My favorite part is probably when we like start to get the animations in, we start to like finally see everything come together. I really like the temp stage, don't get me wrong, it can be really, really funny, and I do find a lot of joy in like picking out little pieces of other gods to like stick in there, and that comes up in the data mining too, which I find is really funny.
I know. Data miners are always like, the ability's going to do this because it has this effect or whatever.
Yeah,
It's like,
that is
Like,
like,
dude, that was just the
no.
best debuff effects I could find, like that fit.
Yeah, that part is really fun to me, but
Yeah.
like the actual transition point too, where you start to get like the final things coming in, that's probably the most satisfying. My favorite is probably that temp stage though, where you just get to like pick and
the
pull
initial prototyping is a lot of fun.
and like adjust things too, because you get a little bit of like effects, you get a little bit of tech art in there, I get a little bit of audio of like how do I actually make all of this stuff play and like sound good like an actual god would, but like not to the same level of polish, because obviously we're not trained to do any of that stuff. It's just like we're making something temporary so people understand what's happening.
Yeah, the
Sure.
biggest compliments at that stage of designers like, oh, have like effects or sound effects already started? That's really good. I'm like, no, that's all me, kid.
Yeah, that's because you're the temp effects king.
Yeah, I love spending way too much time on temp effects.
Yeah, when you pull up your like when you did the 3-kit pitch for Surtur and you had like all of your targeters and stuff there when you were in the pitch stage, I was like, bro, you have gone like 3 steps further than
I know, I was
Everyone
like-
cannot see it. So
I was like, man, that's the difference between the associate designers and the
not
leads, you know,
associates
right
anymore
there.
though. Yeah.
Mid-level gang. Okay, sorry, Clumzy, go ahead. Your favorite part?
Yeah, I mean the prototype stage is definitely a lot of fun. Obviously, you know, releasing the characters is always going to be fun too. I mean, I just always love ideating. So it's like, you know, going from the research, doing the brainstorms, then coming up with a 3-kit pitch. Like seeing where you can take things is always going to be the most fun for me. It's like it's the most creative time that you can be, and seeing how other teams kind of, you know, lean in with their ideas. Because like we always talk about, it's never one person just ideating themselves, right? You're always learning from each other. And as I've always said in the design stage as well, is like if you go through all of your brainstorms and every team has like 1 point or 1 pitch or 1 idea or 1 ability that all rings out, like that's going to be one that's a winner every time. And then you can mold it, you can change it what it may be, you can play around with its theme. But yeah, and generally just coming up with kits is always the most fun part.
Even like the mid like development cycle like changes that happen too can be really fun. Like for instance with Charon, his alt changed a lot during development. Like the initial pitch was for it to be 3 separate waves that were kind of smaller.
yep.
And they were like, okay, this is a little complicated, like how this like fear effect stacks and doing all this multiple times. And so we're like, okay, let's make it 1 big wave. And that was really cool. And I was like, how do I make this even cooler? Like, it needs to feel more ultimate. And then we were like, what if we made it global?
Yeah, and then
we just made it global.
We even want, if I remember correctly, I think we also wanted some like more team elements, right? So we added the trail afterwards.
Yeah, the trail was after. The hit effect on allies was also after.
Yeah.
So,
Give it more guardian feels rather than So I definitely agree. Some of the positive tweaks during development is always cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna ask this.
I didn't get to answer, Gore.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry.
He was like opening his mouth.
I wanted to
excited.
answer. I was excited. I was excited. No, I agree with. I think
He's just gonna say I agree with everybody.
that was fun.
Real original answer.
I just give a terrible answer immediately. No, I don't know. I agree with Clumzy though. I think the most fun I have is doing all the separate brainstorms with all the teams, because we kind of do one with like the esports team, one with programming, one with animation and effects and QA and all that kind of stuff. And then taking those and creating those turn into the 3-kit pitch. I always really like doing the 3-kit pitch, but then I get really sad when I realize that not all of these kits can make it. There's a really good chance. There are so many times where I'm like, I'm so in love with this ability, and I know that Clumzy and AJ are going to insta-kill this thing.
There's always one pitch that is like overscope, and we know it's overscope, but we have to do it.
And it's so hard to not get your hopes up, like,
it's just fun.
Because you can really quickly fall in love with these ideas.
I've definitely done a 3-kit pitch where I've really enjoyed all 3 kits, and like it's one of those where like there's a blessing and a curse where when you go into the 3-kit pitch and someone goes, okay, like kit 2. That's just the winner. Like you don't need to kit bash anything else from anywhere else, because that means like it stays its most cohesive usually. But that just means you lose the entirety of the other ones. It's like, well, damn. And then I think all of us will probably be like, well, we'll keep some of this in our pocket for next pitch. It's like, how could we?
Ideas to use in the future.
We have moved from one kit to another. So I mean, it's definitely
100%.
come up.
Yep.
That actually, I'm glad that you got your answer in, because it does tie into what I was wondering.
And I knew that.
Which is just from my perspective, because like you said, like you'll do meetings with kind of everybody, just poll the crowd, like, hey, we have blank god. What kind of things could you imagine, like, based on this lore? And whether or not that makes it is completely different. But I know ours is always really interesting because I feel like we get about 30 minutes. Yeah. And there's a reason, because like you'll get like 20, 30 minutes maybe of like, here's an idea, here's an idea, here's an idea. And they're all like, they're not reasonable ideas. None of them are ever reasonable ideas. It's always
that's not your job to make them reasonable.
Yeah, where it's like, all right, so we want a stance switcher that does 6 ricochet shots off of every single wall in the game. Also, it's global. Like, you'll get something ridiculous.
Yep.
Then they do start to peter out to be silly, as the word I'm going to use for them.
They get hyper fixated on something, or like, what if we did this? But like,
you just hear it 10 times. And so I'm just kind of curious, like, are the other meetings like that, or are we weird?
Well, esports is definitely the most unhinged.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's also the word I was going to use.
Definitely the most unhinged. I would say after that, though, like everyone gets unhinged eventually.
We just do it faster.
Yeah, you guys just start out unhinged, but that's my preference. Yeah, it is a bigger group. I think QA is sneaky unhinged a lot of the time.
Yes,
they get a little wild over there.
They should know better, though. That's like their whole
signing
thing.
themselves up. I know.
It's been a QA tradition, I would say. Even when I was on QA and like Clumzy would come to us, it was for Charybdis too that this happened, where it was like it was Caps. This is Caps' bit, and I'm stealing it right now. I'm so sorry, Caps, but he's like, what if we had Smite card, but it was on the Bifrost?
Oh
the Smite card on the Bifrost.
I don't know if that's because like I'm the one that's asking, right?
No, he's pitched that for every god for me too.
Okay, good.
For Maui, it was because they're in a boat. For Ishao, it's because they're on but it's on a rainbow.
Because he's on a
it's on a rainbow.
Heimdall, I think we talked about for the Bifrost.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was Mamam possesses them and then they get on a Smite cart. Was it? Did Mike, the old effects lead, Mike Sawicki?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He had this bit where he would pitch me Vamana's kit. But like from scratch. He'd be like, okay, so the one, Maui kind of like dashes through people and like knocks them up. And I'd be like, okay. And then I like write it down. And then like 2 minutes later, he'll go, okay, so for the 2, it's just like a cone.
He swings his hook around.
I was like,
I think he did have a bit.
okay.
I remember
I'm a huge fan of that. I think it's very funny.
Chris Lee had a similar bit where he would be like, let's just do Freya again.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I might have been the most criminal bit haver in all of the god brainstorms. I definitely trolled you a lot in all the esports brainstorms over the years.
Sometimes we get some of those,
but I loved it.
Unhinged parts and we put them in.
Yep.
That's because Billy said the next god's all esports team ideas. Surely, I feel like.
Yeah.
And first off, it made me think that I remember Dave saying like his one biggest regret leaving was that he never got boys in the boat because when we were talking about Maui, he wanted boys. He wanted all the boys. He wanted and then he brought it back for Carol.
Yep. Yeah. He wanted all the. He wanted there to be a dash where you'd pull up a boat and then people could get in it and then you would like charge.
Just go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
kind of got that.
Sorry, Dave.
A little bit.
But
they can't get in the boat, though.
And
it's like,
but the boat is the wave.
True.
The wave.
Maybe I guess makes it showcase that it's like a good idea. But like I know there were things that when it was an eShells kit, I was like, I remember saying that to Aggro, but I also remember Aggro saying he had already thought of that. And like 3 other meetings had already said that.
That
so it's like that idea,
happens.
just like when it.
That's exactly what I was talking about, right? Exactly. Is that sometimes people will have similar ideas, and that's the one that you stick with.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely is like a factor. Like if everyone's saying, eShell needs to have a blind, then she's probably going to have a blind in some regard.
Yep. Exactly. It's like, and I will
put a blind on Maui too.
Because
Lasso the sun.
Someone's got to. That was an FDOT bit forever. Is that FDOT would pitch a blind for every god, no matter what. And I appreciate that you've taken up that mantle.
It's fun to think about how to get a blind into kits that make no sense where a blind would be.
Yep, 100%. No, it's that's definitely like I can't remember which ability it was for. I think it was for an eShell ability where I was like, okay, literally everyone said there needs to be a rainbow like arc in this kit, and I don't have one, and I need to find a way to get one in. That definitely is a big part of like that process is like, okay, if this comes up separately in every brainstorm, I need to like make sure it's there.
I think I remember you started the meeting with, by the way, we were told probably no stance switchers just because like, limits.
Yep.
And I went, okay, so how about a stance switcher, but like with 7 different stances because every color of the rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
and you went, yeah, I'm not writing that down.
So, I wouldn't say that to anyone but the esports team, but I would say that to you.
Sometimes we also write stuff down that are unhinged. We'll be like, we're never going to do this, but we'll just do it to be play. And then sometimes we'll be like, yeah, no.
I think Pon had a section. Like, I swear he would scroll down and put some of the things I would say in a section. And I was like,
just like, oh, and
he's going to delete that, I think.
He just goes down.
He would scroll. Dude, I remember I was like, what if? And he just scrolls. I hadn't even started. I was like, okay, come on. What if it's good?
I did that bit one time, but it was I wrote it down and I highlighted it, changed the font to white, and decreased the size to 1.
Yep.
I'm like, it's there.
I remember.
There it is.
That was a Mifflin suggestion. I can't remember what it was, but I do distinctly remember you going, yeah, that's a real good idea.
it was from Artikaros. I think it had to do with what if he had a melodious roar.
Yes.
And he kept saying melodious
he
roar.
kept bringing melodious back up, like, and it was like, I don't know why.
I can totally hear that.
But melodious was like that was the word he was
like
latching
first
on
time he's ever heard that word.
And he wanted melodious in there. I can't remember. I remember one with Maman. I can't remember what it was, but I knew it was unhinged. And we started the meeting. We sat down for the meeting, and I said, "All right, Aggro, don't write this down." And you went, "Okay." And I spewed whatever
I save all of them, and then what I do is before I do the 3 kit, I go through and I highlight things in green that I think I definitely want to use, and yellow is like maybe, and I'll red the ones that I definitely like. This won't work, or this isn't the direction we want to go, anything like that. So you could see which of you. I don't attribute each idea, but I could show you the notes.
I know how I think. I know which ones would be me.
Yeah,
that's all the good ones.
Yeah. It would be funny to release some of those brainstorm notes at some point, just in like a fun, like in a closer look blog or something like that.
Right.
That would be.
They'd have to be edited.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna like.
It could be like, in the style of like, how they do those like reading mean tweets videos. It could be like having the people that suggested it read their own suggestions.
Oh, it's like, or
really
like, what was it? Shit Tina says or Too Betsy, whatever it is,
right.
which were like today we're gonna look at some of the worst ideas.
Yes,
right? It's like,
exactly.
What if
Yep. That would be good content for sure.
That would be very fun.
Yeah.
Plus, then people get a little peek as to like what kind of weird things and/or just impossible things get suggested.
Okay, we talk a lot of crap about what people have said, but also there have been some really good.
There's some great ideas.
Oh, incredible! Yeah, I would say that like of the eShell had an extra one. So if you include passives, it's like 16 abilities or whatever that I've made for across 3 gods. I've probably come up with like 3 of 16, and definitely like crowdsourced the rest. I think it's important to do that.
It's a designer's job to take everyone's thoughts and put them together cohesively. Like that's what we're really doing.
Yeah.
Right? Is making sure that everyone's ideas come together, because at the end of the day, we're only one component of the god design process. And I mean, there are equally successful gods that are due to kits, that are due to the visuals, that are due to the sounds, that are due to like the voice packs, that are due to the fact that they feel smooth and seamless, which are tech concerns and stuff like that. Like once all those come together, that's always a team effort.
So everybody said that they need to have some like X, and it's like, how do I make X like actually work though? Because like obviously it should be there. Yeah. That's where you guys come in.
Yep.
And like actually get to make X happen.
And that's like the fun part of the idea too. Is like I was talking about a little bit earlier. Like when you see the frequency of certain ideas, you can kind of group them together a little bit and say, okay, we need for Charon, one ability needs to be a boat ability, one ability needs to be a water ability, a soul ability, and like then you can kind of narrow it down just based on like what the expectations are, just like thematically, and that can also help a lot in that process too.
Yeah, and it, like they were talking about earlier, midway through you find things that aren't working, and get suggestions on how to change them and that kind of stuff. And that has always been a huge part of my designs for sure. Like I think Clumzy single-handedly saved Maui by when you told me that initially Maui's one, the line would break if they got to you because it was the base idea was kind of built off of Baron Alt, and that's how Baron Alt works, so that it should break once they reach you. And that ability was just feeling really bad for the majority of development. And you were like, yeah, just don't break it. Like, just let them hold it. And literally the next playtest, I was like, oh my God, the kit works. Like, oh my God, it works. And,
I don't even remember that, but yeah.
Yeah, and Eshell like got a whole new ability, not a whole new ability, but
I remember the 3 we iterated on a lot.
we iterated on a lot. I think Chaos also did something that was like transformative for Eshell at one point.
Like you said, it's not always designers. I know Jordan, the lead program at the time, he was the one who pitched Pele's second like amp state on the jet fuels. I'm like, that's sick. Yeah, absolutely. Like, it was only ever going to be one state, and then he was just like, why don't we make it 2? And he goes turbo, and I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Chaos. For Maman's 1, initially it was you'd have a lower cooldown if you went all the way to 0, and if you activated it early to get the slam, it would be it's X cooldown if you let it go all the way down, Y cooldown if it's early, and it would be way longer and way more punishing. And he was like, what if could I do a linear scale there and scale it down based on how much fuel you had left? And I was like, yeah, that's so much better. He's like, is this okay if I do it? I'm like, that is so much better than what I was asking for.
I mean, you get those same things from each discipline as well. Like I've definitely had artists, and like whether it's effects or animation specifically as well, coming just like, can we do this in this way? Because we think not only will it look good, but it'll also help the gameplay there too. And like those are always winning ideas.
There's so much. Honestly, half of this, we've actually gone 11 minutes over, but I feel like that's actually, yeah.
It always is my fault.
I did when I was walking out. I said, "Who's on the show today?" They were like Clumzy, Lermy, and I was like, "Okay, we've done a couple shows. Like I know the feel." And they were like Aggro, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be easy." Aggro talks a ton.
Sorry.
It's like you used to have to do this a lot.
Every once in a while.
But this, I think the breakdown of like how stuff gets added in. That'd be a fun thing to catalog somehow. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
That's beyond me. But somebody can do it, and the idea's out there.
There you go.
But just like, hey, X changed because someone just said, hey, you know what? This would look cooler, and you're like, man, that's a way better idea.
It would look
actually.
Cooler. Yeah.
You're right. That would be dope. Let's do it. But that's gonna be the hour. And so, chat, I'm gonna tell you now. If you really enjoyed this. There's also things like when Smite the Devs comes up, which admittedly is a lot less focused on talking about dev stuff, but
getting crushed by us.
I think even the last one was a tryhard was what it was called.
Yeah.
And when we walked out, I saw Lermy was in the booth, and I went, "Oh, poor chat."
Did you lose it all?
No, we played Nox, Ganesh, Jingwei.
Oh my god!
They started the meta.
So we may have gone a little tryhard, but that was the intent, right? You guys weren't going to win that day. I'm sorry. No matter who rolls up to that, you're not
giving
winning.
out too many titles.
They would have there needed to be an SPL team to queue in to get.
Isaiah does say that you were cooking.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Lermy bullies in playtest.
She does.
Yeah.
She does.
Yeah.
We're not kidding. She does. Yeah. It's a problem.
I'm limit testing. Okay?
I didn't say
I'm
it.
limit testing.
Limit testing. Yeah. But if you like this, then my good news for you is to come back I guess right after the next update notes, whenever that ends up coming, to then ask questions, because it's really fun to just sit around and talk about things. And as noted, most of these weren't actually about a majority of the patch or the update. There was some mom on, but that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
But it's been fun. So thank you to all of our designers.
Thank you for having us.
For coming in and chatting with us. And thank you, chat, for hanging around. And we'll see you next time on Dev Insight.
See ya. Do we peach it? Can I say? Yeah, we peach it. Peach it.
This is way too good. It can't be true. So tell me what your game is, girl. When you touch me, feel so good.